Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
That can't be good.
I guess that's not supposed to happen.
Hi, everybody. Dan's coming back. I hope so.
I was going to say, or is he? He didn't tell you about this part of the
show? Well, I know it's School of Bookkeeping, and it's hosted by Dan DeLong, and he should be back any second. And otherwise we're on our own.
Nothing like technical difficulties on a live broadcast.
I know, exactly. Well, but I don't think I've met, well, I okay. Oh, there he is.
And he's back.
And I'm back. Sorry, I went to the wrong, got connected to the wrong network, and it was super slow and choppy and all that good stuff that happens, and I forgot to switch it before I came in originally. So apologize for leaving you in such a lurch. What happened?
Like, Rachel sang a song. It was great. It was
beautiful. We figured you'd be back.
Okay, I appreciate that. Well, welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. We are live with more people. This, of course, is casual conversations for serious workflows. Is our little tagline. We are coming in for a landing on the e-commerce fundamentals, and last week we talked a bit about sales bridges, as we call, which is basically a piece of technology that gets between your sales channel and your accounting channel and brings that sales data in together, right? And we talked about a variety of different ones, and we wanted to bring on Mark and how do you pronounce your name? I'm sorry.
Gennady.
Gennady, right? I was gonna say Kennedy, like Kennedy, but Gennady. From WeIntegrate, and I met these folks a couple about 6 months ago, and we were talking about their bridge, and they specialize in Shopify. So that's why I wanted to kind of have Rachel be kind of like a blind reaction here as we kind of talk about that, and then because you guys do something a little bit unique than the other sales bridges out there. So Mark, if you want to talk a little bit about the history of WeIntegrate and how you came to be and what it is you're hoping to solve for. Do you want to share your you have a few slides, but mostly we want to focus on a demonstration today.
Yeah, that'd be great, Dan. Thank you, and Rachel, we really appreciate the opportunity of speaking with you guys today and your audience, and having a chance to have these casual conversations about these very serious workflows. Yeah, do you want me? I'll flip over to. I have a little deck I can walk us through, and we'll talk a little about the history and maybe some of the key points that we would like to highlight for today.
There we go.
Okay, awesome, very cool. So Dan, as you mentioned, right, we WeIntegrate. We are newer to the market, so a lot of people may not have heard of us yet, although the word seems to be spreading pretty quick, which we're excited about. We do currently focus primarily on Shopify into QuickBooks Online, both web store as well as POS from the same tool. Over time, once we, and our focus and our thought was we want to go deep on Shopify first, right? Really address the primary issues that we're hearing out there in the marketplace first, and then move on to other channels. So we do have that on our roadmap to get into other opportunity areas of like e-commerce, such as Amazon and Etsy and all the other common connections that people would need to effectively run their business. As far as our company's concerned, Gennady and I are a couple of older dudes. We've been around for a while.
Real quick, Mark, could you hit slideshow so we could see that a little bit bigger?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Sorry about that. Is that better?
There we go. Yeah,
a little bit bigger. Yeah,
more.
Cool.
We have a little less real estate to work with, so the more we can see you, the better.
That's awesome. Well, I'm actually glad you came back now, then, because otherwise I would have been stuck with the slides. But all kidding aside, so Gennady and I have been in software, supply chain, e-commerce operations for quite some time. I'll let Gennady speak for himself since he's here. But I myself been involved a little about 25 years, mostly as an entrepreneur. I co-founded a very successful EDI provider, supply chain focusing on small businesses. Built out an ERP system for small businesses that did really well and won awards. And now here we are with WeIntegrate. And it was during the time that I was with the ERP solution that the concept of integrating Shopify with QuickBooks Online came about. And here's why. We would call these small businesses, and we found a very interesting reaction when we talked to a small business and say ERP. We either got people hanging up on us because they were scared, or hanging up on us because they didn't know what an ERP was, right? And we found out that a lot of times what they really just needed were very efficient tools to integrate, right? A particular source such as Shopify with their financial systems, and not the whole gamut of what a complex ERP system would offer them, particularly at the smaller stage. Something also interesting that we found was that even though they're categorized as small businesses, they actually have big business needs, right? And, right, because there was a time, long time ago, actually not too far ago, where small businesses would generally compete with the other main street businesses, right? But because of this trend, and e-commerce being one of them, and this global market now, small businesses are competing head to head with big businesses. The problem is those big businesses do, in fact, have enterprise systems and automate big budgets, and they hire people just to make sure that those processes don't break, right? Where a lot of small businesses, like I've had clients that had products that were selling at every single Bed Bath & Beyond store in the country at the cash register, but the product was very tiny, and they'd stock them in their garage, and they had a couple people helping them. And how does a small business like that process for orders for 1,000 stores without enterprise tools? Problem being is it has to be easy to use and it has to be affordable, right? So that methodology and thought process is carried forward, and that's something that Gennady and I focus heavily on here with our solution for WeIntegrate. And Gennady, I'll turn it over to you. You can maybe share your background.
Sure. Thanks for that, Mark. So I started my career working at some very small companies, doing value-added reselling types of services, and we actually at a couple of them build accounting tools, billing tools, medical coding, and things like that. So I experienced early on what it is like to essentially deal with the small side of the things that Mark just mentioned, where the needs of the smaller organizations really don't far off from what the bigger ones are looking for as well. And so as I went and furthered my career and started working at these larger organizations, I saw that there's a lot of parallels there. The same types of things that the large organizations are suffering from are the same types that the small and medium-sized businesses are suffering from as well. And so, we wanted to bring a solution that streamlines things, automates things, and takes advantage of today's technical environments into the hands of these smaller organizations.
Well, that's awesome, because that's really where, I think, small business owners, being able to do things that the big guys do without having but they don't have the time, budget, or expertise to be able to do those things, in an enterprise type of space. This gives, this gives them a lot more leverage. And is that kind of the driving force behind
exactly.
behind WeIntegrate?
Yeah, exactly. We don't feel that the organizations have to spend an arm and a leg for some of the basic features out there that larger enterprises take really for granted, but obviously can afford to pay for it. And so the more that we can empower the small businesses with some of these tools that have been available for a long time, and evolve them to a point where they're very simple, very well integrated, we are going to be basically making lives a whole lot easier for folks.
Well, that's awesome. And then I also noticed Randy Johnston there. Now he's not
Yes.
here, but that's a familiar face. How did that introduction happen, or how is he helping out?
Yeah, that's glad you asked. So Randy is an advisor. He's an official advisor on our board of advisors, and we've been working with him for about a year now. And we just connected with him just to, initially it was just from his experience in the industry and the opportunity to maybe, pick up a little bit of media play. And then just as we talked, we sort of hit it off, and he had given us some good feedback right off the bat that we appreciated. And, things kind of gelled well, and he liked what we were doing a lot. Like you mentioned, thought we are doing something a little bit different than others he's seen in the market, and he joined our board, and he's been very helpful, very instrumental, and all the ways you could probably imagine he has been over the past year, giving us great
Yeah.
advice and guiding us down the right direction, particularly from the accounting perspective, which is really nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, when you go to the Intuit App Store and you search for the word Shopify, you're presented with at least 30 or 40, different applications that claim, right? I'll take your sales data from Shopify and I'll put it in your QuickBooks, right? And Rachel, you probably could attest to, that there is a variety of different ways to get that information in there, into QuickBooks, but all, with an accountant or accounting professional, the devil's in the details. And and so tell us a little bit about what makes WeIntegrate Shopify integration a little bit different.
Sure, happy to. So for starters, we're trying to look at what problems we're trying to solve, right? And realizing that some of these problems may have been solved before, and some of them may have been solved before in a, let's just say, a different way than we think maybe they should be solved. And it doesn't necessarily make one right or wrong, right? There's always going to be schools of thought, right? On this is the way to go, or this is the way to go, right? And that's great. That's why there's multiple companies that do what we do. But one of the things that we found that was paramount was speed, right? Efficiency of data. And that, when you think of from the merchant's perspective for a moment, maybe not necessarily from the accounting perspective, it may, right? And we talked to different accountants, some don't care and some do, right? Depends on, what elements of part of the business they're operating. But when we think about data exchange between disparate systems, speed is important. Speed is very important. Speed can make the difference of a quality decision being made properly or not being made properly. Particularly when you think of things like inventory, right? Where if there's like a 1 hour delay on inventory getting updated, that could have a major impact on customers going to maybe another site that you're selling from that hasn't properly been updated in time, and someone buys an item that turns out that you're actually out of stock on, and now you have to deal with a customer service issue, right? Or having quality data available when you're trying to make cash flow assessments, right? Is it timely? Did I get my information today, or do I have to wait 3 to 5 days, to understand the value of something, right? So we found that quality of data is important. We also found, and I know some of you are going to react when I say this. We found that in many cases, having details on documents can be more advantageous than having summary information of sales. And so we've taken a stance for right now anyway, and it seems to be holding true to at least to the audience of people that say, yes, I do want details. And I know some of you are out there saying that right now. And some of you are saying,
all the bookkeep people are going, no.
Right. Well, we have an answer for that. In fact, I had a great demo with somebody the other day that is a big fan of one of our competitors that focuses a lot on, bulk journal entries and stuff from the payouts. And so we started the conversation that way. And then by the time we were finished, she was very intrigued and very interested and very excited about what we're doing and the approach that we're taking. And I'm happy to talk more about that as we go through the call here. But we do find that there's value in data, right? And here's why. Data gives us the ability to make better decisions, right? Sometimes when we have more data, we can make better decisions. Even from an accounting perspective, bulk data sounds great, right? Until something goes wrong. right? And I'm sure everybody out here has never had anything go wrong before and hasn't had to waste time trying to track down what the problems were or figure that stuff out. But we find that that's some feedback that we've received. We found that there's also, when you think about terms of how, bulk data might save you time upfront, right, of putting data into the system, it does add the value or the you have to start working with clearing accounts, right? And managing clearing accounts, we hear, can be burdensome at times, right? Especially when you're carrying over from one
I,
month to the next month.
I'm sure, Rachel, you would totally disagree with that, right?
Yeah, this is like all I do. But let me ask you a question. Are you saying
Yeah.
you don't do summarized bulk entries, or you do?
Not yet, not at this time.
So
We
it's
are
individual sales receipts.
correct. It's individual
Mhm.
sales, but what we do with that though, Rachel, is we give people options on how they want to bring the data in. We
Mhm.
listen carefully to what the complaints about details were, and we try to do our best to give people options so that we can address those complaints. So one of those is, the assumption is if I get individual sales in, then I'm going to have a million customers clogging up my QuickBooks account. So we give people the option to do that if they prefer, right? If they want to clog up their system with a million customers, they can, or they can map all of that to a single bulk customer
Okay.
as well. Um, Same thing with items. They can track item details if they want, or they can load it all to a bulk item. What's nice though is, well, even when we do that on the actual sales receipts and refund receipts, we keep what we refer to as breadcrumbs, right? Because the data that is displayed on those sales receipts is minuscule, right? So being able to show you on the sales receipt who the customer was, what the address was if you need it, which actually we use to our advantage, by the way, in helping do sales taxes, which I'll talk about in a second. Um, we're still able to map all that to a bulk customer. But if in the event that you do have to go track some things down that didn't go right, you can go to the sales receipt and see all the details right there on the sales receipt if you need it.
And the other thing to note is every feature that we put in, we didn't do this in a vacuum. We worked with a lot of accountants, a lot of pro advisors. We listened more than we spoke. We took a lot of great notes. We showed them our prototypes and different iterations. And the bulk of the folks that we spoke to, that's ultimately what the consensus turned out to be, is what they ultimately wanted, because they were struggling with lack of those details when something went wrong. And usually, as you know, they tend to happen. And
Yeah,
so,
I mean, if you're using QuickBooks for helping with the, as the basis of your business ecosystem, which is really what QuickBooks' mission is, right? To be the ecosystem of small business, and you then defer all of your inventory management activities to Shopify. Now you're unable to make some of the key critical business decisions in QuickBooks because you've now put that in another application or another
yeah,
land. Now
absolutely.
there may be a good cause for that, or there may be a good use case for that, but that's what I'm seeing in this landscape with this push to QuickBooks Online, and it does do things okay for the things that you do things in, and Rachel, as we had discussed, right, like if you're managing your inventory in QuickBooks, right, there's only a certain number of use cases for that, and in this case it's the reseller, as you would call it. It's the
Yeah.
I buy stuff and I sell stuff in order to
Right.
track that information inside of your QuickBooks. And so, so that does kind of leave out, like, okay, people who need to track their manufacturing, or multiple inventory management workflows. But as time goes on, you'll be able to bridge that gap, no pun intended, right, Mark?
Yeah,
Right.
and
Exactly.
for this kind of thing, for people that do manage their inventory in QuickBooks, something like this is great, because I'm thinking of well, I make all my clients give me access in Shopify, but in the event that maybe we don't have all the access that we need in Shopify, and
hmm
when there's mistakes, oftentimes I have to go in Shopify and go to the order and go to the source and search and find various things in Shopify. And in this situation, if it's bringing, maybe even if it does have a generic Shopify customer, if I've got the order number and I, want to look and see some of the specific detail on the order, and I do have it there in QuickBooks, then I have a team, and then we can skip that. Okay, then I have to log in with my user into Shopify and so on and so forth. Because I feel like part of half my day is giving access for people to get into this, that, and the other. So if it's in QuickBooks, then people like my team can have the detail that they need to, complete month end or reconcile or do whatever they need to do. That is a little bit easier. If for some reason, I don't have the access yet, or whatever reason.
Yeah, no, it's
And that's
great.
a lot of
Great
what.
examples, man.
Yeah, that's a lot of what we used to hear, and still hear a lot from the folks that we speak to. And to be quite frank, from a software development standpoint, it's a lot harder to grab all those details and to synchronize all those details and the level of details that we do. And so that's one of the reasons also that we wanted to tackle that first, because giving you a subset of that and just giving you
Right.
very little information is a lot easier to do for us once we've got the more vast majority of that taken
Right.
care of.
Exactly.
Like your third and fourth bullet points about importing the Shopify sales tax into QBO and managing physical and economic nexus in QBO, right?
Yeah,
If
I'm
you're
very
bringing,
curious to see what they mean about that.
Yeah, we
if
are
you're
very excited to
this,
show you.
this is what applications end up doing, is they end up amputating the feature functionality inside of QuickBooks by the way that they integrate into QuickBooks. So, if you're paying your sales tax and you find a way to be actually use sales tax in QBO, which there's a lot of arguments for pros and cons of doing that, and how it's actually handled, and especially when you have multiple economic nexuses in multiple different states, how is that going to be? That's just a headache waiting to happen for for the salt of the earth, the sales and local tax folks. But if you are using QuickBooks for some of these functions, and it's sending over journal entries, right? That's now it's a feature that you can't use now because of the way that is now bringing in that data. So now you have to figure out another workaround for something that's should be a core function, inside of QuickBooks.
Right, exactly. And
And
one of the
I
interesting
just
things,
realized, Mark, that my logo was over top of your head, so I apologize.
hey, that's all right. I need to get a
I'm
haircut
actually gonna
anyway. So.
I'm gonna shift us around. So now we're down at the bottom. So now the closed captions are over us all. So we're all
Equally distributed.
right. So now,
yeah, that's a great point you bring up, Dan. And that's one of the things that, so as the basis behind like the details, we try to understand that time is money, and one of the issues that bookkeepers have with details is it can consume more time. So every feature that we're rolling out, we're thinking about that. In fact, it's not out yet, and we'll keep it between us and this audience, right? But soon to be out. In addition to what we find when it comes to things like payouts, right? Our competitors, they do a nice job of taking those payouts and using those payouts to create the sales, right? Days later after the sale occurred, right? And so what we looked at, we were like, well, hey, we're getting the sales in immediately, like literally immediately within seconds of the transaction occurring on Shopify. And we have all the data. And so now we can give the bookkeepers a perspective of, what, here's my actual sales that I got this month. Well, when the payouts come in, couldn't we also take those payouts and bring those payouts in? And, the number one complaint we heard about the detail was having to go in and create deposits. And, if there's 1,000 sales receipts, check off 1,000 sales, right? To
Right.
kind of recreate that deposit manually. So we said, well, we could do that for you, right? And we could take those payouts and bring them in. We have the sales. We know which sales are on the payouts and just create the deposit for you automatically. So you don't
Yeah,
have to
and
do that.
that's what we were discovering when we were talking about the other sales bridges a couple weeks ago. Is that a lot of times, a lot of bridges are great about bringing in that detail and that sales information into your QuickBooks, but that nebulous um, payout is not connected, and that's why you end up having to use these clearing accounts, and then it's more of a manual reconciliation process for someone like Rachel to go through and make sure that everything that was deposited is deposited, and refunds and fees and all those things are balanced out. But you take a different approach to that as opposed to uh, everyone else out there. I think that's a key distinguisher. I think of what we integrate does. We we integrate does, even though it's a plural pronoun. It's a singular verb.
So is it posting a payout to be expected deposit entry? Is that what it's doing?
Why don't we just go
Well,
right into a demo, Mark, and then you could maybe
yeah,
show
well,
it.
so we could talk that through. Yeah, I could absolutely show that, and we can definitely go into a demo. You want me to start that now?
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Okay. Cool. All right. Just let me. I have to flip to a different screen. So when it comes to the payout, though, we are still working on it. It's not ready for prime time yet. I can kind of show you though how it's going to work. But if you want, do you want me to show you the orders first, or you want me to start with that
Yeah.
payout question?
Well, let's start from the beginning, I guess, and
Yeah.
then kind of work through, and then
Okay.
build up to that pièce de résistance of
All right.
of the
All
payout.
right. Love it. All right, sounds great. All right, so this is WeIntegrate. It's web based, and when you first set up a client, when a client is getting at it for the first time, there's a very simple multi-step wizard. You just kind of walk through. It's kind of like one type of question per page. It guides you through. If when you've done one and you go to the next one, you're familiar with it. It's very simple. It takes less than 10 minutes to set up. The key is making sure that QuickBooks has the elements set up inside of QuickBooks that you need in order to connect things the right way. We have help guides. We have a whole online portal, by the way, a community you could tap into, and there's other pro advisors out there, and we created a special room that you guys can share ideas and collaborate on if you want. But we have all the help guides you need, and of course support to help you get through stuff. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time at all because I don't think anyone's here to understand, to spend time on settings, but just to show you that we have a series of settings. We do settings at two levels. We do it at a high level, and then we do it at a store level. So things that might be common across sales, such as, when we create a sale, where is it going to go, right? So you want to, in our case, you might not have to use clearing accounts anymore. You go into the undeposited funds because those payouts are going to come in and create the deposits. There's a couple other things I just want to kind of point out. When you see a Manila drop down in our system, it's usually an indicator that the data that's part of that drop down is custom to the QuickBooks company you've created. So this is just a custom list of accounts that relate to deposits and banks and stuff that I would link to. Where if you see a gray background, these are static options you can choose from that'll impact the experience inside of QuickBooks. For example, you get to decide when we create those sales receipts, who should create the sales receipt number. Do you want QuickBooks to use their sequencer, or do you want to use the Shopify order number as a sales receipt number?
Oh,
Different.
that's cool.
Like
We
that?
have problems with that.
Okay, cool. I'd like to hear that. And I'll tell you, Rachel, too, we also have it where even if you choose the QuickBooks Online number, we make a natural connection. It'll be and you'll see when I do the demo here in a second, that even from QuickBooks, you'll know that this sales receipt number is the Shopify order number without having to look for it.
That's
And just
cool because I have people that are also creating sales receipts out of QuickBooks themselves. So they get confused on what order number, what
Right.
number to use next, because we've also got sales receipts coming in from connectors, and so it throws them off. They don't know what to do, and I don't have a way of changing that.
Right. Exactly.
That
Yep.
brings up an interesting point. I just want to put a pin in your demo there. So if you're using sales receipts, Rachel, then it's going to pick up the next sequence from the Shopify order. Is that what ultimately happens? And now
that's
you've
what
got
it does. Yeah.
potentially
So
you've got duplicated numbers, which QuickBooks doesn't like.
yeah, and so they, although they're creating invoices, not sales receipts though, but it won't default to the next available number from the last one that they did, because it's accumulating all the Shopify order numbers. And so and then in some other cases, if it's a different payment processor, it's like throwing a different number on there, and sometimes it can get really convoluted. Anyway, I like the fact that there's this designation. It's nice.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
And just one other thing to point out, the settings that Mark is showing here, these are the same ones that you would have set in that initial wizard. And so after you've set it in the wizard, if you want to come and tweak them, they're basically available to you at any time.
Yep.
You're not carving anything in stone.
No.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And I know you guys said that you didn't want to go over settings, but settings is like the one thing where everything gets messed up. So I always need to pay a ton of attention to settings, because that's always where the most important stuff is.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Hey, we're happy to spend a demo doing settings if you want.
that is the rubber hitting the road for sure.
On that topic, so I switched over to our refund settings, which, as you can tell, is very similar to the sales settings, right at the high level. The options that it gives you. The one difference here is at the bottom. So we've learned a little bit the hard way as we were going through the process that Shopify and QuickBooks don't always see eye to eye on how to solve a problem, and they don't always play nice in the sandbox together, right? So refunds is one of those examples, right? Because Shopify will let you create a refund for an item, or based on an item, I should say, as well as just opening up an order and issuing a $20 refund, with no item associated with it, because let's say the shipment arrived late or something, or the customer wasn't happy. And QuickBooks doesn't like the latter. In fact, it will reject it 100% of the time when that happens. So in speaking with Intuit, they said the best practice they recommend following is that you create a service item dedicated for handling those types of refunds that don't have items. And then what we do is when we refer to it as a no item refund comes in the door, you can map it to the item. Now, in my example, I'm calling this item no item refund for store one. The point here is this came from my custom QuickBooks list. So you're free to, you name it whatever you want to name it, and then you just pick it off the list and you map it here. Right, but it gives you a place to store all those refunds inside of QuickBooks that don't have items.
Does that mean that all refunds will go to that, or all refunds that don't have inventory associated with it?
Item specified. Inventory isn't the issue; it's the item itself. So if the refund has an item, so let's say there was 3 items ordered, customers returning one of them, and a refund is getting issued against that one item, or a partial refund is getting issued for some reason against that one item, then that will go in right into QuickBooks with no problem against the item that it's for. This is only for the situations where there is 0 items on the refund at all, and this gives you a place to put those refunds.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. For example, we found some of our merchants tend to refund a certain dollar amount when the order is delayed in fulfillment. And so they're refunding it on the Shopify side, but there's no item associated to it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what that's for.
Leave it up to customers to be very creative in handling those things, and then leaving it up to the accounting professional to sort it out. Right, Rachel?
All right, so I'm going to fast forward to get into some other settings, since everybody's excited about the settings. But I'll do it. I'll try to do it very quick. One thing is, so I went to our connections area here, which is where you manage the actual connections, right? So in a WeIntegrate account, there's one QuickBooks company, and you can, disconnect it and reconnect it, or put a different company attached to it. but you could have unlimited Shopify stores. So even though we're only doing Shopify right now, there's no limit to the number of Shopify stores that you can have. And knowing that, one store is not always the same as another store, whether it be, same items, but one's, B2C and one's B2B, or someone selling housewares in one store and fashion in another, right? How they might want to treat the data from each store might be different, right? So we give you store level control over that. And I'm going to go into this one store, Sydney Star Boutique, to show you the settings we have. So we have three tabs here at the top. We have customer matching, item matching, and then sales and deposits. So under customer matching, the way I have this store currently set is, in fact, to go to a bulk customer that I called bulk Shopify store 1. Again, free to call it whatever you want to call it. But I could manage those customer details if I choose. So you could come in here and you can then say, how do I want to match it, right? So you get a primary match as the default, which this would be Shopify and this would be QuickBooks, right? So I could match, let's say, any option here, email, company name, first name, last name, or any combination of things you see here, to, some field in QuickBooks, whether it be the customer name, the email, or the phone number. Most people probably would do something like email to email, but I like to do email to customer name if you want. And then you have an optional secondary match that you can click on. So let's say email to customer didn't work, right? So now let's try phone to phone. We found stuff like that works really well with some of the companies that have been around for a while, like their older family businesses, and their primary use of Shopify as a POS in that old family business. And they have customers, since whatever, and a lot of those customers don't have email addresses. So they might try to do an email to email first for the newer customers and then default to phone to phone. It also works well for B2B. There's B2B use case here. So if you want to have one store that does B2C and B2B, we have a cool way of being able to address that. But that's optional. And then you tell us, or WeIntegrate can be set to say, okay, so let's say I'm trying to find a match and I can't find a match. Like that customer doesn't exist in my QuickBooks yet. What do you want? What should I do? Well, you have two choices. You could then just throw it back into like a bulk customer, like a customer clearing account, if you will, that you can go and kind of deal with on your own. Or we can go ahead and create the customer for you, where we'll pull the Shopify data in, add a couple of additional fields that are not privy to Shopify, and then go ahead and create that new customer. So that's the option there. But I'm going to keep this as bulk. Then under item matching, we have same thing, right? I'm going to load today into bulk items so you can see how that works. We let you map to a gift card liability when the gift cards are sold. But I could do details like we said. So here we can match, the most, as we know, like the Shopify, right, requires a name or title, and QuickBooks requires a name. So those are always the guaranteed ones that will have values, but that may not work for some people, right? So we do offer the ability to map SKU plus variant, as well as UPCs from Shopify into your choice of SKU or product name into QuickBooks, depending how the QuickBooks company is set up. And just like with customers, what should we do if we can't find a match? Well, we can go ahead and create that new item for you, or let you load it into a bulk item clearing account that you'll deal with separately. So I'll give you those two choices. And then under sales and deposits, we have two main categories right now. The first is because we're pulling those taxes in from Shopify, and the way QuickBooks works in the sense that it will let us override the taxes, for the main part of the system where the items are, but it won't let anybody overwrite the taxes when taxes has to be assigned to shipping. So again, in speaking with Intuit, what they recommended is create a shipping line item that goes to whatever shipping income account you have, and then we map all the shipping to that line item. Because we're asking people to do that as a preferred method, we're adding a couple pieces of value to that for data that you weren't able to see before. Number one, because it's a line item, you can announce shipping on a sales receipt. In addition to that, the Shopify shipping type, let's say, or service level, let's say it's economy versus rush, as an example, we pull that into the description of the shipping line item, so you can now see that in QuickBooks as well. Then under deposits, and this is part of our, soon to be released. So don't tell anybody about this part yet.
You're gonna have to cut the feed.
Cut the feed. So when we're going to create the deposit, which bank account should we map this deposit into for the store, right? You create your checking account. What account are we going to map the Shopify fees to? And again, you have the option to add class. And then what should we do with all the stuff that doesn't have, a match, if you will? Whatever comes in that payout, that might be like quote unquote miscellaneous category stuff, or we can't find the sale to match it against. Put it all into this, sales account, quote unquote clearing account, and then you can kind of deal with it later, but we'll give you the details on that, and I'll walk us through an example there. So before I get into some document processing, were there any other questions you guys want to ask about the settings?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let's do it.
Chomping at the bit.
So, okay, let's say I'm not managing my inventory in QuickBooks at all. Where I don't see settings for COGS.
The cost of goods we pull in from QuickBooks.
Yeah, but do you
mean
have
like
the option to like map the COGS to like different classes and that kind of thing, and like group based on SKU or any of that? Because I know that this is beneficial for matching the item in QuickBooks, but in the situation that I still want to bring in sales receipts into QuickBooks this way, but I'm not managing inventory in QuickBooks.
Right. Yeah. We don't have that set at the moment, but
Okay.
that would be a great enhancement for us to bring to market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have some people with that situation that,
Okay.
We still want sales receipts, but because we still can do undeposited funds is fine, but we're not managing inventory in QuickBooks because they're manufacturers or something like that.
Like and also see this with like Shopify point of sale, for example. If you're managing the inventory there and not in your QuickBooks, you really just want the financial impact to come over, which could come over as at the end of the day or as a group, one big transaction, as opposed to each individual sale causing a COGS to
Yeah,
be,
so
entry.
I would say that this situation is ideal for or to utilize all of these settings and functions would be for somebody that's managing their inventory in QuickBooks. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Awesome.
even if you're not managing the inventory, that's ultimately where the bulk customer, the bulk item comes in, where you don't really care about the inventory side of it, but you're still able to create that sales receipt and still capture all those details.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So how about I'll go and process a couple documents so you can see how the data flows between Shopify and QuickBooks.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to go to this Shopify store we have here. You'll have to excuse my web design. It's or my store design. I'm going to just add a couple of products. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, because before I send this over, actually, you know what? I want to show you a couple of things real quick. So I'm going to backtrack. Let me. Looks like is QuickBooks still open? Oh, good. Need more time. Perfect. When it logs you out in the middle of a demo. Okay, so I want to show a couple things. So I'm going to go over to taxes since we've been talking about taxes, and I'm going to come under. I'm going to call attention to a couple areas here. So the first one is, where's my New York? Where'd New York go? There it is. Okay. Right. So we have New York tax, right? Showing up here on here. And then we have under economic nexus, we have Illinois, right? And you can see we've already been tracking some economic nexus here because of the way that we.
Cool. Because I never touched the sales tax center, but now I'm seeing that I could use this even for people that aren't managing their inventory in QuickBooks to bring them in this way. So that way we can use this and it's more visibility for my client to see where they're, the Nexus tracker. And then even as the payment gets applied, it can get applied to its own thing instead of just one bulk.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so here I'm going to here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and process an order from this order from Shopify. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do it for New York, and I'll do an order for New York, and then I'll process the same exact order. Let's say for Chicago or Illinois, so I can show you that where we just were. So let's go ahead and check this out. Let me come up with a fake name here. I'll call it Terry Tester today. At test.com. Go through this quick. And then we'll assume there's a 10 Main Street in Chicago. Anybody's from Chicago, you'll have to excuse me on that. Illinois, and I'll just pick a zip code at random. Let's see. Okay, I'll go with the one Shopify recommends. And you'll notice, you know, actually, I gotta take a step back here too. Let me show you something. This is the back end of the Shopify store that I'm processing that order for. If I come into settings here, I just want to call out, right? So we have our business address here, which is in New Jersey, right? It's just a test address here. And under this location, we have 3 additional addresses. We have the New York warehouse, a Kansas warehouse, and a South Carolina warehouse. So Shopify, because of this, knows that there's 4 physical locations that exist throughout the United States. And Shopify knows how to take that and manage the physical versus economic nexus, right? So if I put an order in for New York, Shopify will know, right, that they should charge tax. If I put an order in that's shipping to Illinois, Shopify also knows not to charge tax, right? And you'll see that as I go ahead and do this. QuickBooks, on the other hand, does not know that inherently, right? Because QuickBooks is focused on pretty much one address, and it's not designed to be a multi-address system out of the box. But we trick it, and I'll show you how we trick it.
You have your ways.
We have our ways, right? So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to first process this order for Illinois, and you can see there's no tax over here, and the total of the order comes to $75.99 with the $15 economy shipping. And I'm going to put a fake credit card number in here for those.
I'm sitting here wondering, how are they going to trick it? Maybe just turn it on?
You'll see. You'll see.
I think Rachel's sitting on the edge of her seat. I think it's actually she just moved to the edge.
Okay, so I put the first order through. Now I'm going to go through. I'm going to do the same exact thing, same exact order. All right, same shirt.
Because I think you can just go into the sales tax center and just say, I have an obligation in this state now. Turn it on, right?
Right, but and you can, and that's primarily how that part works. The issue, though, is that when QuickBooks figures out which tax agency to assign a tax to, it does it based on the information that's presented on the sales receipt.
Yeah, and then it creates a separate GL account for that one, and then you can't ever undo that. Okay, right. I need to know exactly. Tell me now.
Demanding.
We're almost there. We're almost there. So we're going to say Terry has a sister, Tara.
Tara
Tester. That's what comes to mind. You know how many times I've had to come up with these fake names? Tara Tester. And Tara Tester lives in, let's say, 2500 Broadway here in New York City. And Tara, being a New Yorker, has to have things shipped faster. So we're going to pay $36.90 for shipping. Now you'll notice Shopify made the association, right? New York physical address shipping to New York. So now we need to charge New York tax at $870 for a total of $106.59. So I'll come in here and use the same fake credit card number I used before. And we will go ahead and process that order. All right, the order's through. Now let's come back to WeIntegrate. You'll see we have a red bubble 1 here at the top. So that first order that I processed has already gone through. And I'm going to show you that here in a second. But keep your eye on that 1, just like another couple seconds.
Stare at it.
Now it's become a 2, right? That's how fast we integrate. And this is a demo system. It's not even
wow, that's pretty cool.
Thanks.
And there wasn't anything that you had to do to push it over there.
Exactly. That's a very good point.
As soon as it gets in there, it's there. So
Exactly. Yeah, I'm showing you through the system today, but most of our clients come in here periodically when they need to. But yeah, whether you come in our system or not, it's truly set it and forget it. Once the connection is made, it just automates whether you do something or not. And so just these are the two orders that came through, right? 1334 and 1333. You'll notice, if you remember the amounts I showed you on Shopify, they're to the penny here. We give you some additional options where you can hover over the person's name, right, and get the address, the bill to ship to email. Eventually, we're going to have details here, but we're trying to focus on the things that people are most interested in right now. And this is kind of like a later thing because people are getting all the data inside of between Shopify and QuickBooks. Then you'll see here we give you a couple statuses, right? So this is something we think we do. It's kind of cool. We show you a workflow. So we show you that both of these have been paid in full in this case versus partially paid and a partial refund in this case. And then we give you shipping status, right? So neither of these have been shipped, where this one has been partially shipped. When something's shipped complete, we move it to the fulfilled sales folder. And then, same thing here for cancellations, refunds, and you see our new payouts folder over here with the private feature logo there. Now, when I come over here to these two columns, this is the date we received it in WeIntegrate, which is usually instantly for the most part. And then this is the last time we did a sync up with QuickBooks. And you'll see this one, the first one went in. And if I hover over this, even from here, Rachel, you can see that there's the order number for 1333 all the way on the left. That's the Shopify order number. When I go into QuickBooks, I'll see it under sales receipt 2866 because I'm doing the different numbers. But obviously, if someone's doing, using the order number from Shopify as a sales receipt number in QuickBooks, it would have the same value.
Will it still show a reference for 1333 or no?
Yes, it will.
Yes.
So if I go over to QuickBooks. So
Yep.
Honestly, I get excited by the strangest stuff.
And by the way, just for the record, when we came up with that capability, Gennadi's the one that said, one day we're going to demo this in front of Rachel, and she's going to ask that question, so we better be ready. But here you can see, here they are, right? And here's the reference. So you can see sales receipt number 2867 belongs to Shopify order 1334. And we also show you which store it came from in the event that you have multiple stores that you're processing.
Yeah, because some of these people are going to have hundreds in a day. This is why I'm saying this.
Yeah, exactly. And just kind of wrapping this part up to show you that other question I've been making you wait to answer about how do we trick QuickBooks.
And Mark, this is where I go, and wait, there's more.
Yeah. So you can see here a couple things, and there's more, and then there's more on the more. But here we have the bulk customer that we're loading this into, right? And we're showing you what we call the breadcrumbs, right, on the sales receipt. So if you have to track this information down, it's here. And now you'll notice that here the ship to state says Illinois.
I see.
And the ship from defaulted to, which you might not have known this, but the default address here inside of QuickBooks is this New Jersey address. Okay. And there's no tax. When I come down here, by the way, just kind of showing you the bulk item approach here as well. We load it all into this bulk item in QuickBooks, so it's not taking up that space there, but we give you the breadcrumbs of the items here as well. And how much the rates were from Shopify, etc. Here you can see the shipping fee, that it's economy shipping. There's no tax assigned, and it ties out to the exact penny of $75.99. And this will get tracked by QuickBooks' economic nexus tracker, as I showed you earlier, because QuickBooks now says I have a sales receipt that has a different ship from than the ship to. So so I need to track Illinois as a nexus. If I come into the New York order I processed.
Well, because it knows that you currently don't have Nexus there, but it still needs to be tracked.
Exactly. And then what will happen is eventually it'll catch up when it hits the threshold, and it knows to move that over to the tax agent. Yep, exactly.
I like having that in QuickBooks. I mean, I used to be like, I didn't want anything in QuickBooks, but now, like, just from I'm hearing some weird noise. I don't know from what, but I feel like now, after like practical experience and dealing with some clients and kind of seeing what they want to see and seeing how they kind of understand the concept of Nexus a little bit better when that's in QuickBooks. You know what I mean? And now I like that in there.
Cool. Awesome. And by the way, it's not saying you can't, even though QuickBooks has it there, if someone wants to use another add-on solution, right, nothing's stopping that from happening, right? But at least, like you said, at least QuickBooks is in there and it's being tracked correctly.
Well, and then also, guess what? If they're sending out invoices from QuickBooks as well, even if they're sending out wholesale invoices,
Right.
doesn't that all need to be factored into Nexus tracking? So this
Exactly.
is consolidating all of the Nexus tracking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. 100% correct. Yep.
And then this allows you to use something like Davo connected to your QuickBooks to be able to impound those sales tax fees so that the business owner doesn't spend that on behalf of the state and then get a nasty letter.
Yeah, and like the alternative is you have to dump your sales data if it's in an external thing and it's not tracking the Nexus, and then you have a client that's invoicing from QuickBooks Online still. You have to consolidate it all together to see, if they're not, because I'm dealing with this right now. One client is in a non-connected inventory IMS that I can't connect Avalara. So I have to manually crunch the numbers and track the Nexus and add in the QuickBooks invoices. It's aggravating. I hate it.
Well, we could talk after the show and help you with that. One point I want to make, because I know we're running out of time here too on that topic, to call your attention. So you can see I opened up that second sale that I created for the sales receipt 2867 here in QuickBooks, and you'll notice the ship to here now says New York, right? Because that's where the customer shipped to. This is Tara Tester. And what we did was we changed the ship from using the Shopify address for New York, since we checked that there was a match. Right, so we managed our logic on the Shopify side before we pulled the sale, and made QuickBooks use that New York address as the ship from. So now QuickBooks says I have a New York address going to a New York facility and knows how to deal with that properly.
Oh, wait a second. Now you lost me. Wait, so you did that in the settings?
No, this is not a setting.
Matching.
This is just live matching, part of our logic, our algorithm logic that we use when we're pulling the sales from Shopify.
This is secret sauce stuff.
Secret sauce, yeah,
exactly.
About it.
It's the magic behind WeIntegrate.
There is Worcestershire
so
sauce in the Thousand Island dressing.
So you're saying if the ship to is New York, then we're going to change the ship from to New York. So
Correct.
Those two correspond.
Only if they have a location.
Only if it. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
and by the way, we do a similar thing with POS as well, right? So for if you have any clients that have multiple POS locations through one Shopify connection, and those POS locations are in different tax agency zones, we find that, so we can replace the location of sale based on that store's physicality, which helps track the sales tax in QuickBooks correctly as well.
Right. And we're doing that based on analyzing as Shopify orders are coming in, and we are writing them out to QuickBooks. That is part of what we're doing internally to do that.
Man, that's cool. I haven't seen this before, where you can actually bring the individual sales receipt in with the state ship to, and then track that. I'm telling you, like, I go through like craziness sometimes, and this is really cool.
This is why I told Rachel, don't do any research on WeIntegrate before, because I want this blind, honest reaction from Rachel when she actually does get to see it.
By the way, I also love the name, because when you go into the not Shopify, well, I guess Shopify App Store, but I mean even the QuickBooks App Store, I like the name. It's just WeIntegrate. It just tells you what it does.
Right. Yep. It's kind of like changing your Thai restaurant to Thai food near me.
Yeah.
right. Or I saw a restaurant in New York says you eat here.
Yeah.
Now if you only get the restaurant that says I don't care, because that's the restaurant that every married couple ends up going to.
Yeah.
I don't care. You decide.
So
Anyway, the jokes
there's
are
more,
over.
but
So,
yeah.
so then you know another distinction is what happens with those sales receipts with regards to payouts. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So then this is part of what's still in process. And by the way, just one other quick comment. I won't take the time during the demo to show you, but you see how the 3 fields here on the sales receipt for ship via, ship date, and tracking number. When that actually does happen in Shopify and a order is fulfilled, we receive that information also fairly instantly from Shopify, and we load that all up here for people. So if you ever need to track that information here, you see it here.
Again,
And
you're not eliminating the functions that they could feasibly use in QuickBooks because they're using some other application to bridge the data between them. So that's what I like about the way that you handle these things is that you still use the native functions inside of QuickBooks when possible.
Yeah, that's pretty
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah.
So
Thank
it
you.
updates that shipping information after the fact. It brings it in from Shopify.
Yes. Correct. And we also add down here. So let's say there's multiple, Shopify creates the link where you can track the shipment. We add those links here as well under the shipping free line item.
Do they have to be using Shopify shipping, or does it work if they're using ShipStation?
I think it works if they use ShipStation as well, but I'll come back to you to confirm that. Pretty sure.
Oh, there's a question, Dan.
Oh, I'm on full screen, so I wasn't even looking. So is the Shopify? It's from Doug Sleater of all. Is the Shopify transaction ID also repeated in the reference number in QuickBooks? It appears to be the same number.
Sorry, good.
This would be good because I want to create a report that lists sales by reference number to compare with Shopify reports.
Yes. That is yes.
Yeah, it's a setting.
Yes. Short answer is yes.
Okay, cool.
It's in the memo, right? Isn't it in the memo?
It's also in the memo. And it's part of the settings on what you actually want to be displayed in the memo field, as well as what you want to be displayed in the reference number.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep. And then, so coming over to payouts.
Payouts.
Payouts. Let's talk payouts. Right. So this is just, again, this is still in process. So you guys are getting a chance to see behind the curtain. In fact, if anybody wants to, we always take good feedback from people as we're building. That's what we try to do from our product management perspective. But you'll see here, we have the Shopify payout number coming through, the date of the payout, the gross amount, the fees, and the net amount. And this is the amount that should match to the bank. Currency, of course, how many sales are associated with that payout. And now we're showing you the status of the payout, right? So when the payout gets scheduled at Shopify, we're going to bring it in here into WeIntegrate. We're not going to push it to QuickBooks yet, but we're going to bring it in here. Why? So we can give you visibility. Now, we understand Shopify does give some visibility on that already, but, we're trying to build out some value here. And number two, that's, if you have multiple stores, now you have to go check that in multiple places, where here you can come to one place and see it all.
Yeah, and you also may not have access to Shopify payouts.
Right. Good point. True. So we're going to show you scheduled so you can see that, from a cash flow management perspective, you can get a little visibility into what to expect. Then we show you that it's in transit, right? So we'll change the status on it, and then it goes to paid. Once it goes to paid, we're going to use that data and auto create the deposit ticket inside of QuickBooks Online for you. And when we do that, because we have all the orders associated here, and we know, even if you use a different sales receipt number versus the order number from Shopify, we know how to match it. We're going to check off all those sales receipts for you, so that, that fear of having to check 1,000 sales receipts to match up a deposit, don't worry about it. We're going to make that go away, because we're going to do that for you automatically. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the fees and put, at the bottom of the deposit, we're going to put all the fees down there and assign it to the account you specified in your settings, as well as any additional items that came in on the payout that would go at the bottom too, inclusive of any kind of offsets that might occur in the natural course of the process, to ensure that that payout matches the bank And now we're going to give you visibility where I don't think, and you guys can know better than us, but we don't believe anybody does this, where because usually with a provider like us, you either get the sales or you get the payouts. We're bringing you both, and we have the details, so we'll be able to call your attention any sales that have not yet been paid, right? Easily enough if that happens, right? Because we're not building the
Rachel,
sales from the payout.
Rachel, what are you going to do with all your spare time?
Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but the other providers also bring in the payout because I do that all the time. But I will say is I like the fact that it is matching up with the payout, because now I don't ever have to worry about undeposited funds. Because what I'm saying is, if it's going to match the payout and I'm not using a clearing account and I am just using undeposited funds, and let's say I have maybe 5 or 6 different checking accounts because I have a different checking account for each Shopify store. And then, but everything is funneling into undeposited funds, but it's pulling it and matching it, and I don't have to worry about undeposited funds. I definitely like that. I'm very reluctant to do that, but if this is foolproof, then that's good.
Yeah, that was my feedback to them when I saw this, because using undeposited funds, it has a plus sign in that undeposited funds has a list, right? So everything that's waiting to be deposited will just show up there as opposed to a clearing account where, like, well, did it get deposited? How do I actually match that up? So being able to tie the transactions into a deposit, then you'll be able to see what was actually part of that deposit, right? But the challenge is that once you've now set foot in undeposited funds, then there's things that you can't do, like undo transactions that have been deposited. So that was my step lightly.
It can get a little risky sometimes, especially when your client is also invoicing out of QuickBooks and you've got their crap and undeposited funds too. But I want to ask you guys one thing before we have to wrap it up. I didn't hear you guys mention PayPal. My favorite.
Yeah, we on PayPal. That's something that we're still working on.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm not even being sarcastic. I actually love PayPal.
Yeah,
it's on our radar, but we wanted to start with the first one as we incubate this, and make sure that it does what folks are expecting it to do first.
And I do like and appreciate the fact that you guys are digging deep into the into the Shopify vertical, right? And then you're picking up your learnings along the way and being able to say, well, this works great or this doesn't work great, so that when you go into other sales channels, as you have your roadmap for, okay, let's tackle Amazon, let's tackle eBay, let's tackle WooCommerce or the other online sales channels, whatever that might be, right? You'll be able to lather, rinse, repeat for using the shampoo analogy,
right?
And they'll all have their own nuances to them,
Of course.
But you'll have this good framework to be able to take to other marketplaces and sales channels moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have to say, like, the most impressive thing for me was the utilization of the sales tax center, because I feel like when I first started getting to a lot of different integrations and becoming an integration know-how person, or I guess if you want to say specialist, I feel like a lot of the theme of it was just keep everything out of QuickBooks, like just dump all the data in QuickBooks. But I appreciate doing more things in QuickBooks with, even if you're not managing your inventory in QuickBooks, I appreciate utilizing these things in QuickBooks. I want to use more things in QuickBooks. I really do. And so I really like that. And I also like the fact that, just like Dan, like all these bridges, you say bridge, I say connector, are just so wildly different. And, it's really confusing to a lot of people, but really spending the time and understanding how every single one of these works. I mean, this is really different than a lot of the other ones. And so I really appreciate what you guys have done.
Thank you.
And our
Appreciate
half
that.
hour workshop went about 40 minutes over.
Yeah, I know. I was like, when are they going to get into PayPal?
Sorry.
Digital plumbing.
So Tucker, that you're offering?
Yeah. So we're excited to share with your audience here that if you go ahead and scan that QR code and you go ahead and register for a free trial by December 22nd, we're going to take 20% off your first 3 months, and it comes with a 15-day free trial, no obligation, no credit card necessary. You just kind of sign up. Obviously, the caveat is you need a QuickBooks, company to test with and a Shopify store to test with. But yeah, you can go give it a shot, and we're happy to spend some time and answer questions, and look forward to working with y'all.
Cool. Can I put this on this special? Can I repost it on my website, on my blog?
Absolutely, we would love that. Thank you, Rachel.
Cool.
That would be great.
I have so many followers.
Yeah, we'll connect with you offline on that for sure.
I'm just kidding. I don't really.
5.
All right. I love good comment from Doug. He calls it digital plumbing. There
you go.
Is the way that he does all these connectors. So appreciate you, Mark, and joining us here today on our extended version of Workshop Wednesday. What happened to Mark there? He turned blue.
Oh, here I am. Yeah, sorry. Yep, I'm here. Yeah, getting the
business goes on whether you're on a workshop or not.
Yep.
All right. Well, again, thanks everybody for joining us. And next time on the workshop is we're going to be talking about we're going to be shifting gears a little bit and talking about Lightspeed point of sale. And for those people that are still in the QuickBooks point of sale and want to migrate to another option, what we're going to do is kind of have a side-by-side comparison over the next 4 workshops. Whereas this is what you do in QuickBooks point of sale, and this is how you do it in Lightspeed. So we'll kind of have a thunderdome of point of sales on the workshop. So hopefully you can join us if you have some retail clients, or if you are a retail client yourself. You want to know how am I going to do things from QuickBooks point of sale into Lightspeed. So we appreciate you joining us. And I forgot. I almost forgot. I have the tail off video here. So hopefully you all have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the Workshop Wednesday. Where is it? There it is.
Thank you.